So this is something that I spoke about some time ago, where I said that Amos was up for parole soon, and it looks like he got his parole, and then he was immediately detained by ICE, and he's getting deported back to Singapore. Singaporean Amos in ICE detention facility barely a week after being released on parole in United States. And there he is there. Ah, that old familiar face. Singaporean child sex offender Amos is now in the custody of the US Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, with the 27-year-old likely to face deportation, which, yeah, considering what he did, more than likely. A check on the agency's website on November 24th indicated that he is detained at the Dodge Detention Facility in Wisconsin, a 4-hour drive from the state of Illinois, where he was serving a 6-year jail term for child pornography and sexual grooming before being released on parole on November the 20th. It is unclear when he was taken into ICE's custody. Most likely the instant that he got out of the prison. Now, I don't know how it works over in America, but over here, if the police find out that you've committed any more crimes while you're in jail, like say for example you go to jail for like assault, but then they later on like check your phone and stuff like that and go, oh wow, you're actually involved in like the supply of cocaine, they will let you do your whole sentence. And then, literally, as you are getting out of the jail, you've got your bag, you've got your stuff, and you're just leaving the jail, the police will be waiting outside the jail to arrest you again so that they can put you straight back into the prison just to keep you in there for as long as they can. That's the thing they do. They won't charge you while you're in the jail. They will wait until you're out and then immediately charge you again. That is a thing that the police do over here. So I don't know if that's the case over in America. I don't know how you guys do it. A check on the agency's website on November 24th. Oh, I've just read that. According to the ICE website, detaining an individual is meant to secure their presence for immigration proceedings or removal from the United States, among other immigration-related considerations. A check on the US Executive Office for Immigration Review's automated case information site also did not indicate when Yee's case will be held before an immigration court. So he's basically just going to be held in a detention facility until he actually goes to immigration court. Yee will face charges in Singapore if he returns. Yes, that's why he fled in the first place. But I'll go into all of that at the end. The Ministry of Defence told the Straits Times that he will be charged under the Enlistment Act as he failed to report for pre-enlistment medical screening and remained outside the country without a valid exit permit. Singapore is very strict when it comes to the laws, but there is other things that he is being charged for, mostly speech-related stuff, which I will go into at the end of the video. Flouting enlistment rules can result in offenders both being fined up to $10,000, jailed up to 3 years, or both. And Amos has already been in prison in Singapore multiple times. Mostly for things he said. They have very strict laws. Like Singapore, even though a great big beautiful city, blah blah blah, but it's a full-blown authoritarian state. He had entered the US in December 2016 to seek asylum after repeated run-ins with the law in Singapore over controversial comments that were derogatory to Christians and Muslims. Yeah, and that's why we were all backing him in the first place, but keep going to blow my load too early. A little bit of foreplay first. I'll save it for the end. Yee was granted asylum in March 2017, despite opposition from the US Department of Homeland Security, and was released from detention in September that year. However, he found himself in trouble again after he was indicted by a grand jury at an Illinois court in 2020 for solicitation and possession of child pornography. He had exchanged nude photos and messages with a 14-year-old girl from Texas while he was in Chicago and was sentenced on December the 2nd, 2021. Barely halfway into his 6-year jail term, he was released on parole in October 2023, but rearrested the following month. Well, the reason behind his I didn't know about that. I genuinely didn't know about that. He kept very quiet online, if that's the case. I don't know why. Don't know what that was. It's even saying here while the reason behind his reincarceration is unknown, it is believed that he had broken the terms of his parole. And he is a bit of a dumb guy. I've got a bloody cold again. It's that time of year. Which included restrictions such as not being allowed to use the internet without approval from the State Corrections Department, and not being permitted to be near a place where children would be unless the department allowed it. ST has contacted ICE for more information. Okay. So the entire story about Amos Yee. We're going way back. We're going old school. These are some of the I can't believe I can't. Someone called me a YouTube unk the other day, and then I also saw someone use the term like the old heads like Count Dankula, and I was like, and then I realised that I've been doing YouTube for 10 years. I've been doing YouTube for 10 years. Next year will be 10 years since Nazi Pug happened. Yeah, I bet you all feel old. I hope you all feel as old as me. But basically, way back in the day, you had like the Great Schism. There was multiple schisms, right? Where you had the original edgy atheist YouTube, and then they decided to split off. Right, that's where you had Atheism Plus, and you had the Skeptics. Right, now this is the precursor before Gamergate. Right, you had Atheism Plus were all the left wing content creators, and the Skeptics were the right wing content creators. Right, I came onto the scene just after Gamergate, just as well, maybe about 3/4 of the way through Gamergate was when I came onto the scene. But one thing that happened was everybody was all very free speech because my case had happened, and even a lot of the left wing content creators and like the original skeptics and all that were all defending me for my freedom of speech. And then we hear about another YouTuber called Amos who uploaded a bunch of videos of himself like throwing the Quran over the room and humping the Quran on his bed and everything, and he ended up getting arrested under Singaporean laws because they have very, very strict speech laws, especially when it comes to causing religious offence. And we all rallied behind him, and we were like, oh, poor Amos, oh, let's start a crowdfund, let's do this, let's do that, and we were all like defending the absolute fuck out of him. But sadly, he went to prison. He went to prison, and we were all campaigning for him, going, he has a right to freedom of speech. Singapore has violated his freedom of speech rights. He got out of prison, and then he ended up going back in again on new charges and everything, and we were all like, this is terrible. And then everybody kind of chipped in, and everybody whipped together to make sure that Amos Yee could seek asylum in the United States, where they have a wonderful thing called the First Amendment. Right? So Amos Yee got over to the United States. All of us were like, that's great, that's wonderful. But bear in mind, it's me, a bunch of other right-wing creators, a bunch of left-wing creators, just a lot of YouTubers in the space. And then the instant Amos Yee landed in the United States, he went, child porn should be legal. And every single one of us were just like Homer Simpson backing into the bushes, just going, what the fuck? Man, everyone immediately dropped him. And there was this huge theory for a long time that it was a huge elaborate troll. Like, he was good at getting a rise out of people, I mean, especially with, like, literally humping the Quran on the bed. So we were like, is this a huge elaborate troll? But then he had his Patreon shut down. He got kicked out of his apartment. He had a bunch of talks and events that he was doing just immediately cancelled because people were like, oh, a victim of speech laws. Like, oh, we want to talk to you. And then all this shit came out and all of his stuff get cancelled. He lost everything over his advocacy for saying that it should be legal to have sex with children and child porn should be legal and all of this other stuff. And that's why I was one of loads of people thought that it was a big troll. And I was like, look, I understand a commitment to the bit, but nobody is going to nuke their life to that level. Nobody's going to nuke their life to that level for a meme. Right, you know, the instant I started losing contracts or something, I'd be like, I'm joking. Holy shit, like, don't take away my bag. Like, I've got kids to feed. And all that, right? Like, that's how I knew he was committed. And I felt that I bore a lot of responsibility because I was one of the guys that helped him. So I went, I'm going to debate him on this, right? And I debated Amos Yee twice. I believe this is going way back in the day. I ended up having to actually private the debates I did with him on YouTube because a lot of the stuff that he was saying could have got me a strike. Because he was saying stuff like it should be legal to have sex with babies and all this stuff. And anytime I was trying to debate him, he kept going, buddy, guy, hey, buddy. And he kept just like doing that. And it got to the point where I wasn't taking him seriously and I was just like making fun of him and everything. And but I ended up, and I did say to him, I can't remember which debate it was, but in the middle of the debate, I did say to him, I said, Amos Yee, are you a paedophile? And he went, no, I'm not. And then it came out sometime later that he'd been messaging underage girls and getting pictures from them. And he got caught. And then he ended up going to prison. But there was another thing that happened to him during that time. Now, I don't condone this. I don't condone this at all. But some cheeky little sausage sent me screenshots of DMs between himself and Amos Yee, and he just like sent it to me. I think it was a burner Twitter account. The guy just sent it to me going, I did a funny. And basically this was after like Amos Yee started doing his advocacy, and basically his landlord kicked him out and Amos Yee had nowhere to live. So a guy messaged him and went, oh yeah, I've totally got a flat, like I've got an apartment, I've got a room spare here in LA if you come out to LA, like you can totally like live with me and stuff like that. And Amos G went was like, thanks, buddy. And Amos G went all the way from like Illinois to LA. And then the Amos G was like, oh, I'm here. Like, where am I meeting you? And the guy went, bro, I live in England. He was like, I don't have an apartment in LA. I live in England. And then Amos G was like seething about it in the messages, and the guy sent it to me, and I was just like, that's not funny. That's actually quite a horrible, mean thing to do. Don't do that. Right, but basically, I debated him twice, and I won because basically, when you are against child sexual exploitation, it's an extremely easy argument to win. It's like, because you're right. You're just right. Like, very, very easy argument to win. If you want to feel like a big brain Chad, just go debate one of these guys. Very easy argument to win. Right, so I debated Amoshi twice. His career was in tatters. Nobody was believing any of the things that he says because he's just objectively wrong. And I was like, good job done. I feel like I've won a little bit of my honour back after supporting this fucking reprobate before I knew what he bloody was. But then he get charged, and that's when some people were like, it's an elaborate troll, it's an elaborate troll. And then when it all came out that he was messaging those girls, I just posted it going, well, well, well. Looks like I was correct all along. But basically, yeah, Amoshi, in the free speech sphere, Amoshi is a little bit of an embarrassment now, which is why I felt the need to go in and debate him. But he then gets sent to prison. I do want to know what he was sent back in for, because he did get sentenced, and just that was it. We just thought, oh, whatever, he's gone now. He'll be out in like 6 years or whatever. But it looks like he's been paroled early. But he's been immediately detained by ICE, and he's getting sent back to Singapore now. It's definitely not going to be just the not signing up for enlistment thing that he's going to get caught on, because the Singaporean government was gunning for him. They were like fully gunning for him for all like the videos and the edgy comments and the edgy jokes that he'd made. But it's at the point now where I think it's going to be, when he goes back home, it's going to be a lot more than that he's going to get charged with.